The night sky above a medieval village burns with an otherworldly glow as a dragon circles overhead, its massive wings casting shadows over the rooftops and its fiery breath lighting up the darkness. This wasn't just a scene from a story, it was a reflection of the very real fears and beliefs that shaped the lives of ancient people. But why did they conjure such terrifying creatures? What did these beasts truly represent? Far more than mere tales of fantasy, mythological creatures like dragons, griffins, and chimeras were mirrors held up to humanity's deepest anxieties, superstitions, and values. They were symbols of the unknown, the uncontrollable, and the divine, woven into the fabric of cultures across the world. In this video, we'll journey through time and imagination to uncover the hidden meanings behind these legendary beings. We'll explore how they reveal the fears that haunted ancient civilizations, the superstitions that guided their lives, and the cultural beliefs that still resonate with us today. So let's dive into the shadows of mythology and discover what these creatures truly meant to the people who dreamed them into existence. Mythological creatures weren't just figments of imagination. They were powerful symbols that ancient societies used to make sense of the world around them. In a time when natural disasters, diseases, and other threats felt like the work of unseen forces, these beasts became metaphors for the unknown and the uncontrollable. They gave shape to fears that couldn't be explained, offering a way to understand and even confront the chaos of life. Take, for instance, the Greek Hydra, a multi-headed serpent that grew 2 heads for every one that was cut off. This creature wasn't just a monster to be defeated. It represented the relentless, ever-growing nature of chaos and disorder, a reminder that some challenges seem to multiply no matter how hard we fight them. Similarly, in Norse mythology, the sea serpent Jormungandr encircled the world, its massive body holding the oceans in place. But it wasn't just a guardian of the deep, it was also a harbinger of destruction, destined to release its tail and bring about the end of the world during Ragnarök. This idea of cyclical destruction and renewal mirrored the Norse understanding of life's inevitable ups and downs, a reflection of their belief in the balance between order and chaos. But these creatures weren't just symbols of fear, they also served as tools for teaching and guidance. Stories about mythological beasts often carried moral lessons, warning people about the consequences of greed, arrogance, or disobedience. For example, the Hydra's defeat by Hercules wasn't just a tale of heroism, it was a lesson in perseverance, showing that even the most daunting challenges could be overcome with determination and cleverness. Likewise, Jormungandr's role in Ragnarök wasn't just about doom. It also highlighted the importance of accepting life cycles and finding meaning in the face of inevitable change. These stories weren't just entertainment, they were a way to pass down cultural values, reinforcing the norms and beliefs that held societies together. Through these tales, ancient people found a way to navigate the uncertainties of their world, transforming their fears into lessons that could guide future generations. Dragons are perhaps the most iconic and universally recognized mythological creatures, appearing in the folklore of nearly every culture across the globe. Yet, despite their shared name, dragons took on wildly different meanings depending on where they were imagined. In European tales, dragons were often depicted as fearsome, fire-breathing monsters, hoarders of treasure who terrorized villages and demanded sacrifices. These creatures weren't just antagonists in stories, they embodied the dangers of greed and unchecked ambition. Think of the dragon in Beowulf guarding its hoard of gold, or the many knights who sought to slay dragons as a test of their valor. These dragons symbolized humanity's struggle against chaos and the darker aspects of human nature, reflecting a deep-seated fear of losing control to destructive forces. Meanwhile, in Eastern cultures, dragons took on a completely different role. In Chinese mythology, dragons were celestial beings associated with water, rain, and the natural cycles of the earth. Far from being destructive, they were seen as benevolent protectors, symbols of wisdom, strength, and prosperity. Emperors often claimed the dragon as their emblem, linking their rule to the divine and harmonious order of the universe. Unlike the European dragon's hoard of gold, the Chinese dragon's treasure was the life-giving rain it brought to the land, ensuring abundance and fertility. This stark contrast reveals how different cultures interpreted the same creature through the lens of their own values and fears. What's fascinating is how these two interpretations of dragons reflect humanity's dual relationship with nature. In Europe, dragons symbolized the untamed wild, a force to be conquered and controlled. They represented the chaos that could disrupt society if left unchecked. In the East, dragons were seen as partners in maintaining balance, embodying the harmony that could be achieved when humans worked with nature rather than against it. These differing views of dragons reveal not just cultural distinctions, but also universal themes: our ancient fears of chaos and our enduring desire for stability and prosperity. The dragon's duality as both destroyer and protector speaks to a deeper truth about human experience. Just as nature can bring both devastation and renewal, dragons remind us of the delicate balance between creation and destruction, ambition and humility. Whether they were feared as harbingers of doom or revered as guardians of wisdom, dragons served as powerful metaphors for the forces that shaped ancient lives and continue to shape ours today. Chimeras and hybrid creatures, with their fantastical amalgamation of animal traits, stand as some of the most intriguing creations of mythology. These beings, part lion, part goat, part serpent, or any combination of the unimaginable, did more than spark awe or terror. They embodied the ancient world's profound unease with the unnatural, the blending of boundaries and the mysteries that lay beyond human understanding. Take the chimera, for instance, a creature from Greek mythology with the body of a lion, the head of a goat, and a serpent for a tail. This wasn't just a random collection of animal parts. It was a living symbol of chaos, a fusion of elements that defied the natural order. The chimera wasn't merely a monster to be slain. It represented the fear of what happens when the familiar and the unknown collide, when the lines between what is safe and what is dangerous blur. But the chimera wasn't alone in this role. The griffin, with the body of a lion and the wings and head of an eagle, also straddled the line between the earthly and the divine. In many myths, griffins were guardians of treasure, their dual nature symbolizing the union of strength and wisdom, of the grounded and the celestial. They weren't just protectors, they were gatekeepers, standing at the threshold between the known world and the realm of the unknown. To confront a griffin was to face the ultimate test of courage and intellect, a challenge that mirrored the human struggle to overcome fear and ignorance. Then there's the Sphinx, perhaps one of the most enigmatic hybrid creatures of all. With the body of a lion and the head of a human, the Sphinx was both a riddle and a riddler, a creature that tested not just physical strength but mental acuity. In Greek mythology, the Sphinx guarded the entrance to Thebes, posing a question to all who sought passage. What walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 legs at noon, and 3 legs in the evening? Those who failed to answer were devoured, while those who succeeded proved their worthiness to proceed. The Sphinx wasn't just a monster, it was a metaphor for the obstacles that lie at the crossroads of life, challenges that demand not just bravery but also insight and self-awareness. What all these hybrid creatures share is their role as symbols of the unknown and the uncontrollable. They weren't just threats to be vanquished, they were mirrors held up to humanity's deepest anxieties. In a world where natural disasters, diseases, and other misfortunes were often seen as the work of unseen forces, these beings gave shape to the fears that couldn't be explained. They were manifestations of the chaos that lurked beyond the edges of the known world, a reminder that not everything could be tamed or understood. Yet there's another layer to these myths. By creating creatures that blended the traits of different animals, ancient storytellers were also exploring the boundaries of their own imagination. They were grappling with the complexity of the world around them, trying to make sense of forces that seemed to defy explanation. In a way, these hybrid beings were a form of early science, an attempt to categorize and understand the unknown by combining the familiar with the strange. They were a bridge between the natural and the supernatural, a way to explore the mysteries of existence through storytelling. Through these myths, ancient cultures found a way to confront their fears and make sense of a world that often felt overwhelming. The chimera, the griffin, the sphinx, they weren't just monsters. They were teachers, guardians, and symbols of the human quest for understanding. They remind us that, even in the face of the unknown, there is always a way forward, a path to wisdom and courage. And perhaps, in their strange and otherworldly forms, they also remind us of the beauty and complexity of the world we inhabit, a world that continues to inspire wonder and curiosity, just as it did for the people who first dreamed these creatures into existence. Beneath the waves, where sunlight fades into darkness, ancient imaginations conjured some of the most terrifying creatures ever conceived. The ocean, vast and unknowable, was a source of both life and dread for early civilizations. It provided food, trade routes, and a connection to distant lands, but it also held dangers that could strike without warning: storms, shipwrecks, and the unfathomable depths where monsters were said to dwell. Among these mythical beings, few struck fear into the hearts of sailors and coastal communities like the Kraken, the Leviathan, and Scylla. These sea monsters weren't just stories, they were embodiments of the ocean's dual nature, a giver of life and a taker of lives. Take the Kraken, a colossal creature from Norse mythology said to dwell off the coasts of Norway and Greenland. Described as a monstrous squid or octopus capable of dragging entire ships into the abyss, the Kraken wasn't just a threat to sailors, it was a symbol of the ocean's overwhelming power. For those who braved the seas, the Kraken represented the ultimate test of courage and resilience, a reminder that even the strongest ships and most skilled crews were at the mercy of nature's whims. The Kraken's legend wasn't just about fear, it was also a cautionary tale, warning sailors to respect the ocean's might and never underestimate its dangers. Then there's the Leviathan, a sea serpent of biblical proportions mentioned in the Hebrew Bible. Unlike the Kraken, the Leviathan wasn't just a physical threat, it was a cosmic one. Described as a creature of chaos, the Leviathan symbolized the untamed forces of creation, a being so powerful that only the divine could control it. For ancient cultures, the Leviathan wasn't just a monster. It was a metaphor for the uncontrollable aspects of life, from natural disasters to existential fears. The Leviathan's presence in mythology reflects a deep-seated anxiety about humanity's place in the universe and our vulnerability in the face of forces beyond our comprehension. And let's not forget Scylla, the six-headed sea monster from Greek mythology who lurked in the narrow straits between Italy and Sicily. Alongside her counterpart Charybdis, a whirlpool that swallowed ships whole, Scylla created a perilous passage that sailors had to navigate. To choose between Scylla and Charybdis was to face an impossible decision, risk being devoured by a monster or dragged into a watery vortex. This myth wasn't just a thrilling story, it was a reflection of the harsh realities faced by ancient mariners. The tale of Scylla and Charybdis served as a metaphor for the difficult choices and unavoidable dangers that come with venturing into the unknown. These sea monsters, though terrifying, served a crucial purpose in ancient societies. They weren't just figments of imagination, they were tools for understanding and coping with the dangers of the natural world. By personifying the ocean's threats, these myths gave people a way to confront their fears and prepare for the challenges of life at sea. They also reinforced the idea that the ocean, while bountiful, demanded respect and caution. For coastal communities, these stories were more than entertainment, they were survival guides, passed down through generations to ensure that the lessons of the past weren't forgotten. But what's truly fascinating is how these myths reveal a universal truth about human nature. Whether it's the Kraken, the Leviathan, or Scylla, these creatures embody our ancient fears of the untamed and the unknown. They remind us that, even in a world dominated by technology and science, there are still forces beyond our control. The ocean, with its vastness and mystery, remains a powerful symbol of life's unpredictability, a reminder that we are both shaped and humbled by the natural world. In the end, the stories of sea monsters are more than just tales of terror. They are windows into the human experience, reflections of our enduring struggle to navigate the unpredictable waters of life. They teach us about courage, resilience, and the importance of respecting the forces that shape our world. And perhaps in their monstrous forms, they also remind us of the awe and wonder that the ocean has inspired in us for millennia, a testament to the enduring power of myth to illuminate the mysteries of our world. The fear of losing control, of succumbing to the primal instincts lurking within us all. This is the heart of the werewolf myth. Across cultures, stories of shapeshifters and werewolves have captivated imaginations, not just as tales of terror, but as profound reflections of humanity's deepest anxieties. These creatures, caught between human and beast, embody the fragile boundary between civilization and savagery, a line that could be crossed in an instant. The werewolf, with its howl under the full moon, wasn't just a monster, it was a warning about the darkness within, the part of us that could transform when the rules of society fall away. Take the tale of Lycaon, a king from Greek mythology who dared to test the gods. In one version of the story, Lycaon served Zeus a meal made from the flesh of a child, an act of such unspeakable cruelty that the god transformed him into a wolf as punishment. This wasn't just a story about divine retribution, it was a cautionary tale about the consequences of moral corruption. Lycaon's transformation into a wolf symbolized his descent into savagery, a literal manifestation of the beast within. The myth served as a stark reminder that even the most powerful rulers were not immune to the temptations of cruelty and chaos. Similarly, in Norse mythology, the Berserkers, warriors who fought in a trance-like fury, were said to channel the spirit of wolves or bears in battle. Cloaked in animal skins, they became symbols of unrestrained violence, feared by both enemies and allies alike. The Berserkers weren't just fighters, they were living embodiments of the wild, untamed side of human nature. Their ferocity in battle was both awe-inspiring and terrifying, a reminder of how easily the veneer of civilization could crack under pressure. These warriors, like the werewolf, blurred the line between human and beast, showing that the capacity for savagery was never far from the surface. What's striking about these stories is how they reflect ancient fears about the unpredictability of human behavior. Werewolves and shapeshifters weren't just monsters, they were metaphors for the chaos that could erupt when people lost control. In a world where survival often depended on strict social order, the idea of someone transforming into a beast was a chilling reminder of how quickly that order could collapse. These myths tapped into a universal fear that beneath the surface of our civilized selves, there lies a wild, untamed nature waiting to break free. But werewolf legends also reveal a deeper, more personal fear, the fear of losing oneself. To become a werewolf wasn't just about physical transformation, it was about losing one's humanity, one's identity. In many stories, the werewolf's curse is involuntary, a punishment or a disease that strips away free will. This idea resonated deeply with ancient societies where personal identity was often tied to one's role within the community. To lose control, to become something other than human, was to lose one's place in the world. It was a fate worse than death. These myths weren't just about fear, though they also offered a way to confront and understand it. By personifying the darker aspects of human nature, stories of werewolves and shapeshifters gave people a way to grapple with their own inner struggles. They served as a mirror, reflecting the tension between our civilized selves and our primal instincts. In a world where the line between good and evil, order and chaos, was often blurred, these creatures provided a way to explore the complexities of human behavior. And perhaps in their monstrous forms, these myths also offered a glimmer of hope. After all, if the beast within could be named and understood, it could also be controlled. The werewolf's curse, though terrifying, was not always permanent. In many stories, the beast could be tamed, the transformation reversed. This idea that even the darkest parts of ourselves can be overcome has resonated across generations, offering a timeless lesson in the power of self-awareness and resilience. Through the lens of werewolves and shapeshifters, ancient cultures explored not just the fear of losing control, but also the hope of reclaiming it. These creatures, born of fear and imagination, remind us of the delicate balance that defines our humanity. They challenge us to confront the beast within, not with fear, but with understanding, and perhaps in doing so, to find a way to keep it at bay. From the shadowy graves of ancient cemeteries to the blood-soaked pages of modern fiction, vampires have haunted human imagination for centuries. These creatures of the night, with their thirst for blood and immortal existence, are more than just monsters. They are mirrors reflecting our deepest fears about death, disease, and the unknown. Across cultures, vampire myths emerged as a way to grapple with the mysteries of mortality and the unsettling idea that death might not be the end. In Slavic folklore, the Strigoi was one of the earliest iterations of the vampire. These undead beings were said to rise from their graves to torment the living, draining their life force to sustain their cursed existence. The Strigoi wasn't just a tale to frighten children. It was a way to explain sudden deaths, plagues, and other inexplicable tragedies. When a village was struck by disease or misfortune, the Strigoi often became the scapegoat, a supernatural culprit that could be blamed, hunted, and destroyed. This myth provided a sense of control in the face of chaos, offering a way to confront the unknown through ritual and superstition. Similarly, in Mesopotamian mythology, the Lilitu, a demonic figure often associated with the night, bore striking similarities to later vampire legends. These malevolent spirits were said to prey on the vulnerable, draining their vitality and spreading illness. The Lilitu, like the Strigoi, embodied the fear of unseen forces that threatened life and health. In a world without modern medicine, where epidemics could wipe out entire communities, these myths offered a way to make sense of the incomprehensible. By personifying disease and death as creatures that could be fought or appeased, ancient cultures found a way to cope with the fragility of life. As vampire myths spread and evolved, they took on new layers of meaning. In medieval Europe, for example, the fear of vampires became intertwined with anxieties about the afterlife. The idea that the dead could return to prey on the living tapped into deep-seated fears about what lay beyond the grave. Was death truly the end, or was there something more, something sinister waiting in the shadows? Vampire legends often included rituals designed to prevent the dead from rising, from driving stakes through hearts to placing stones in mouth. These practices weren't just about superstition. They were a way to assert control over the uncontrollable, to impose order on the chaos of death. But vampire myths weren't just about fear. They also revealed humanity's fascination with immortality and the limits of life. The vampire's eternal existence, though cursed, offered a tantalizing glimpse of a life beyond death. Yet this immortality came at a terrible cost, the loss of one's humanity. To become a vampire was to be cut off from the natural cycle of life and death, to exist in a state of perpetual hunger and isolation. This duality, immortality at the price of one's soul, spoke to ancient fears about the consequences of defying nature. It was a warning that even the most desirable gifts could come with a heavy price. What's remarkable about vampire myths is how they reveal the universal struggle to understand and control the forces of life and death. From the Strigoi of Slavic folklore to the Lilitu of Mesopotamia, these creatures embodied the anxieties of their time, offering a way to confront the unknown through storytelling. They were more than just monsters, they were symbols of humanity's enduring quest to make sense of the mysteries that surround us. Even today, vampires continue to captivate us, not just as figures of horror, but as reflections of our own fears and desires. They remind us of the fragility of life, the inevitability of death, and the lengths we will go to defy it. Through these myths, we see not just the darkness of the unknown, but also the light of human resilience, the determination to face our fears and find meaning in the shadows. Towering over the landscape, their footsteps shaking the earth, giants and titans have loomed large in the myths of countless cultures. These colossal beings weren't just figures of awe, they embodied the fear of overwhelming power, whether from nature, the gods, or forces beyond human control. In Greek mythology, the Titans were the original rulers of the cosmos, primordial deities whose sheer strength and size made them nearly invincible. Their rule, however, was marked by chaos and conflict, a reflection of the untamed natural world before the Olympian gods brought order. When Zeus and his siblings overthrew the Titans, it wasn't just a victory of gods over giants, it was a symbolic triumph of order over chaos, a reminder that even the mightiest forces could be challenged and subdued. In Norse mythology, the Jötunn, or frost giants, played a similar role. These towering beings were often depicted as adversaries of the gods, representing the harsh, unpredictable forces of nature. The Jötunn weren't just enemies to be defeated, they were embodiments of the cold, unforgiving wilderness that Norse communities struggled to survive in. Stories of battles between gods and giants, like Thor's relentless clashes with the Jötunn, weren't just thrilling tales. They were metaphors for humanity's struggle against the elements, a way to explore the tension between civilization and the untamed wild. What's fascinating about these myths is how they reveal a universal fear of vulnerability. Giants and titans weren't just symbols of power, they were reminders of humanity's fragility. In a world where natural disasters, famine, and disease could strike without warning, these beings personified the overwhelming forces that could crush human lives in an instant. The fear of giants wasn't just about their size or strength, it was about the unpredictability of the world and the limits of human control. But these myths also carried a deeper message, a warning about hubris. In many stories, giants and titans were defeated not just because they were evil, but because they overreached. The Greek titans, for example, were overthrown not only by the strength of the Olympians, but also by their own arrogance. Their fall served as a cautionary tale about the dangers of challenging the natural order or the will of the gods. Similarly, in Norse tales, the Jötunn often suffered defeat because they underestimated the cunning and resilience of their opponents. These stories weren't just about the triumph of good over evil, they were about the consequences of pride and the importance of humility in the face of forces greater than ourselves. Giants and titans also played a role in shaping cultural identity. For many ancient societies, these beings were part of their origin stories, representing the chaos that existed before the world as they knew it was formed. In Greek mythology, the defeat of the Titans marked the beginning of a new era, one defined by the rule of the Olympian gods and the establishment of order. For the Norse, the struggle against the Jötunn was a central theme in their cosmology, reflecting their understanding of the world as a constant battle between order and chaos. These myths weren't just entertainment, they were a way for people to make sense of their place in the universe and the forces that shaped their lives. Today, the legacy of giants and titans lives on, not just in the pages of mythology, but in our collective imagination. They remind us of the enduring human struggle to confront the unknown and the uncontrollable. Whether they are seen as symbols of natural forces, warnings against arrogance, or reflections of our own vulnerability, these colossal beings continue to captivate us. Through their stories, we find not just fear but also resilience, a reminder that even in the face of overwhelming power, there is always a way to challenge, adapt, and endure. When the sun sets and shadows stretch long, the world of the unseen comes alive, not just in the darkness of night, but in the stories that have haunted humanity for millennia. Ghosts and spirits, those restless echoes of the past, are among the most universal and enduring figures in mythology. From the Roman lemures, restless souls seeking vengeance, to the Japanese yurei, spirits bound to the mortal world by unfulfilled desires, these spectral beings embody a fear that transcends time and culture, the fear of what we cannot see, what we cannot control, and what lingers long after life has ended. In ancient Rome, the lemures were more than just ghostly figures, they were a manifestation of guilt and unresolved conflict. These spirits, often believed to be the restless dead, were said to wander the earth, tormenting the living until they were appeased. The Romans held rituals called the Lemuria, during which they offered food and prayers to pacify these wandering souls. This wasn't just about superstition, it was a way to confront the unease that came with the unknown. The lemures reminded people of their obligations to the dead, reinforcing the idea that neglecting one's ancestors could bring about chaos and misfortune. Meanwhile, across the globe in Japan, the yurei took on a different but equally haunting role. These spirits, often depicted with long black hair and white burial robes, were tied to the mortal world by intense emotions, grief, anger, or unfulfilled love. The yurei weren't just figments of imagination, they were reflections of the human condition, embodying the pain and longing that could persist even after death. Stories of yurei often served as cautionary tales, warning against actions that might lead to such tragic fates like betrayal or abandonment. These myths weren't just about fear, they were about understanding the consequences of our actions and the weight of unresolved emotions. What's striking about ghost stories across cultures is how they often serve as explanations for the inexplicable. Before science could explain phenomena like sleep paralysis, strange noises in the night, or sudden illnesses, ghosts provided a way to make sense of the unknown. A creaking floorboard became the footsteps of a restless spirit, a sudden chill in the air, the presence of something otherworldly. These stories gave people a framework to understand and cope with the mysteries of life, turning fear into something tangible that could be confronted, appeased, or even banished. But ghost myths also played a crucial role in enforcing social norms and moral codes. In many cultures, honoring the dead wasn't just a matter of respect, it was a way to ensure that the living remained safe from their wrath. The Roman Lemuria, the Chinese Hungry Ghost Festival, and the Mexican Dia de los Muertos all share a common thread, the belief that the dead could influence the living for better or worse. These traditions reinforced the importance of family, community, and remembrance, ensuring that the lessons of the past were not forgotten. At their core, ghost stories reveal something profound about humanity, our deep-seated anxiety about the afterlife and the lingering influence of the past. They remind us that the dead are never truly gone, not from our memories, our cultures, or our fears. Whether as warnings, explanations, or expressions of grief, these myths offer a way to grapple with the mysteries of life and death. They challenge us to confront what we cannot see, to honor what we cannot control, and to find meaning in the shadows that linger long after the light has faded. Through these tales, we see not just the fear of the unseen, but also the enduring power of memory and the human need to make sense of the unknown. Ghosts and spirits, in all their spectral forms, remind us that the past is never truly buried. It lives on, shaping the present and haunting the future, just as it did for the ancient cultures who first whispered their stories into the night. Mythological beasts weren't just tools for explaining the unknown, they were also powerful vehicles for teaching moral lessons and reinforcing the values that held societies together. Take the Minotaur, for example, a fearsome creature with the body of a man and the head of a bull, confined to the labyrinth of Crete. This wasn't just a monster to be feared, it was a symbol of unchecked power and the consequences of arrogance. According to legend, the Minotaur was born from the hubris of King Minos, who angered the gods by refusing to sacrifice a prized bull. The labyrinth itself, a twisting maze of confusion and danger, mirrored the moral traps that pride and greed could create. When Theseus ventured into the labyrinth to slay the Minotaur, it wasn't just a test of bravery, it was a lesson in humility and the importance of facing one's own inner demons. Similarly, the Sphinx, with its lion's body and human head, served as a guardian of wisdom and a tester of virtue. In Greek mythology, the Sphinx posed a riddle to all who sought passage, devouring those who failed to answer correctly. The riddle itself, what walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 legs at noon, and 3 legs in the evening, wasn't just a test of intellect, it was a metaphor for the stages of human life and the wisdom that comes with experience. When Oedipus solved the riddle, he didn't just defeat the Sphinx, he demonstrated the value of self-awareness and the dangers of ignorance. These stories weren't just entertainment, they were cautionary tales warning against the pitfalls of arrogance and the importance of humility. What's fascinating about these myths is how they reflect the moral frameworks of their time. The Minotaur and the Sphinx weren't just obstacles for heroes to overcome, they were lessons in the consequences of human behavior. Whether it was the Minotaur's labyrinth representing the entrapment of hubris or the Sphinx's riddle symbolizing the quest for self-knowledge, these creatures served as reminders of the values that ancient societies held dear. They reinforced the idea that actions have consequences and that wisdom, humility, and courage were essential virtues for navigating life's challenges. But these myths didn't just shape individual behavior, they also played a crucial role in shaping cultural identity. Stories of mythological beasts were passed down through generations, becoming a shared language that communities used to define their values and beliefs. The tale of the Minotaur, for example, wasn't just about a monster in a maze. It was a story about the dangers of greed and the importance of respecting divine will. The Sphinx's riddle wasn't just a test of wit, it was a reflection of the Greek emphasis on wisdom and self-awareness. These myths became part of the cultural fabric, helping to reinforce the norms and ideals that held societies together. In many ways, these stories were early forms of moral education, using vivid imagery and compelling narratives to teach lessons that might otherwise have been lost in abstract philosophy. They made complex ideas accessible, transforming ethical dilemmas into memorable tales of heroism and folly. By embodying virtues and vices in the form of mythical creatures, these stories allowed people to explore difficult concepts in a way that was both engaging and relatable. And perhaps that's the true power of these myths, their ability to transcend time and culture, continuing to resonate with us today. The Minotaur and the Sphinx aren't just relics of the past, they're timeless symbols of the human condition, reminding us of the dangers of arrogance, the importance of wisdom, and the enduring value of storytelling. Through these tales, ancient cultures found a way to explore the complexities of life, passing down lessons that continue to inspire and challenge us in the modern world. So the next time you hear a myth about a fearsome beast, remember, it's not just a monster, it's a mirror reflecting the values, fears, and aspirations of the people who created it. And in that reflection, we can still find lessons that guide us even today. Mythological creatures have always been more than just stories. They are windows into the human psyche, reflecting our deepest fears, desires, and unresolved conflicts. To understand why these beings hold such power over our imaginations, we can turn to the work of psychologists like Carl Jung, who introduced the idea of archetypes, universal symbols and patterns that appear across cultures. According to Jung, mythological beasts are not random inventions. They are expressions of these archetypes, tapping into shared human experiences that transcend time and geography. The dragon, the werewolf, the vampire, they are not just monsters. They are manifestations of the collective unconscious, representing the parts of ourselves we struggle to understand or control. Take, for example, the fear of the unknown. This primal anxiety, deeply rooted in the human experience, is often personified in mythological creatures. The Hydra, with its many heads, embodies the feeling that problems multiply when we try to confront them. The Kraken, lurking in the depths of the ocean, symbolizes the dangers that lie beneath the surface of our understanding. These creatures are more than just metaphors, they are ways for societies to externalize and process their fears, turning abstract anxieties into tangible forms that can be confronted, understood, and even overcome. But it's not just fear that drives the creation of these myths. Desire plays an equally powerful role. The vampire, with its immortality and seductive allure, represents the longing for eternal life and the dangers of unchecked ambition. The dragon, guarding its hoard of treasure, reflects humanity's complex relationship with wealth and power. These creatures are not just symbols of what we fear, they are also mirrors of what we desire, revealing the tensions between our aspirations and our limitations. What's fascinating is how these myths serve as a form of collective therapy. By externalizing their fears and desires, ancient societies could confront and process them in a safe, symbolic way. The werewolf, for instance, is not just a monster. It's a way to explore the fear of losing control, of giving in to our primal instincts. The minotaur, trapped in its labyrinth, represents the chaos that arises when ambition and pride go unchecked. These stories allowed people to grapple with complex emotions and moral dilemmas, offering a framework for understanding the human condition. Jung's archetypes also help explain why these myths resonate across cultures. The hero who slays the dragon, the trickster who outsmarts the monster, the wise old man who guides the journey, these are not just characters, they are reflections of universal human experiences. The dragon slayer, for instance, represents the triumph of order over chaos, a theme that appears in myths from Europe to Asia. The trickster, like Loki in Norse mythology or Anansi in African folklore, embodies the unpredictability of life and the importance of adaptability. These archetypes reveal the common threads that connect us, showing how myths are not just stories, they are a shared language of the human experience. Through the lens of psychology, we can see that mythological beasts are more than just figments of imagination. They are tools for understanding ourselves, for confronting our fears and desires, and for exploring the mysteries of the human mind. They remind us that, even in the face of the unknown, there is always a way to find meaning and connection. These stories, born of fear and wonder, continue to captivate us because they speak to something fundamental within us, a need to make sense of the world and our place within it. By examining the psychological roots of these myths, we gain a deeper appreciation for their enduring power. They are not just relics of the past, they are reflections of the timeless struggles and aspirations that define what it means to be human. And in that reflection, we find not just fear but also hope, a reminder that even in the darkest corners of our imagination, there is always a path to understanding and growth. Mythological beasts are not static. They evolve, shape-shifting across time and cultures to reflect the changing fears, values, and priorities of the societies that create them. Take the dragon, for instance. In early European folklore, dragons were often depicted as malevolent forces, hoarders of treasure and destroyers of villages. They symbolized chaos, greed, and the untamed wild, embodying everything that threatened the fragile order of medieval life. But as time passed, dragons began to take on new roles. In some Eastern cultures, they transformed into benevolent beings, guardians of water and rain, symbols of wisdom and prosperity. This shift wasn't random. It reflected the values of agrarian societies that depended on the natural cycles of the earth. The dragon, once a symbol of fear, became a symbol of harmony, showing how myths adapt to serve the needs of the people who tell them. Vampires, too, have undergone a dramatic evolution. In their earliest forms, like the Slavic Strigoi or the Mesopotamian Lilitu, vampires were grotesque and terrifying, embodiments of disease and death. They were creatures to be feared, lurking in the shadows and preying on the vulnerable. But by the 19th century, vampires began to change. Bram Stoker's Dracula introduced a more complex figure, a charismatic, seductive aristocrat who combined danger with allure. This shift reflected a growing fascination with the mysterious and the forbidden, as well as anxieties about class and power in a rapidly industrializing world. In modern literature and film, vampires have become even more nuanced, often portrayed as tragic, romantic figures struggling with their monstrous nature. This transformation reveals a deeper cultural shift from fear of the unknown to a more introspective exploration of what it means to be human. These changes in mythological creatures aren't just about storytelling, they're mirrors of societal evolution. When dragons became protectors or vampires became romantic, it wasn't because the creatures themselves changed. It was because the fears and desires of the people telling their stories had shifted. In times of instability, myths often emphasize chaos and danger, reflecting the anxieties of societies under threat. In more stable periods, they might focus on harmony, wisdom, or the complexities of human nature. Myths, in this sense, are like living things constantly adapting to the environment in which they exist. What's remarkable is how these stories continue to resonate with us today. In a world dominated by science and technology, we might think we've outgrown the need for myths, but the enduring popularity of dragons, vampires, and other mythical creatures suggests otherwise. These stories still speak to us because they tap into universal human experiences: fear, desire, the struggle for control, and the search for meaning. They remind us that no matter how much the world changes, the questions we ask about ourselves and our place in the universe remain the same. Through the evolution of these creatures, we see not just the history of storytelling, but the history of humanity itself. They are a testament to our ability to adapt, to find meaning in the unknown, and to use imagination as a tool for understanding the world. And perhaps that's the greatest power of myth, not just to explain the past, but to help us navigate the present and imagine the future. Mythological beasts have never truly left us, they've simply shape-shifted, finding new life in the stories we tell today. From the silver screen to the pages of best-selling novels, these ancient creatures continue to captivate modern audiences, proving that their power to inspire and unsettle is as strong as ever. But why do these age-old myths still resonate in a world dominated by science and technology? The answer lies in their ability to adapt, reflecting the fears and anxieties of each new generation while preserving the timeless themes that have always defined them. Take zombies, for example. Once confined to Haitian folklore as reanimated corpses controlled by sorcery, zombies have undergone a dramatic transformation in modern media. Today, they're often depicted as mindless hordes spreading infection, a symbol of societal collapse and the fragility of human systems. Films like 28 Days Later and TV shows like The Walking Dead use zombies to explore fears of pandemics, environmental destruction, and the breakdown of social order. The zombie apocalypse isn't just a thrilling premise, it's a mirror held up to our collective anxieties about global crises and the vulnerability of our interconnected world. Dragons, too, have found new roles in contemporary storytelling. In the Game of Thrones series, dragons are more than just fire-breathing monsters. They're symbols of power, ambition, and the consequences of unchecked authority. Daenerys Targaryen's dragons reflect her rise to power, but they also embody the destructive potential of that power when it's wielded without restraint. This modern take on dragons taps into our fears about leadership, the misuse of technology, and the environmental toll of human ambition. In a world grappling with climate change and political instability, these mythical creatures have become powerful metaphors for the challenges we face. Even vampires, with their centuries-old allure, have evolved to reflect modern concerns. While Bram Stoker's Dracula explored themes of class and sexuality, today's vampires often grapple with identity and morality. Shows like Buffy the Vampire Slayer and True Blood present vampires as complex characters struggling with their dual natures, torn between their humanity and their monstrous instincts. These stories resonate with audiences navigating their own questions of identity, belonging, and the ethical dilemmas of a rapidly changing world. What's fascinating is how these modern interpretations stay true to the essence of their mythological roots while addressing contemporary issues. The fears they embody may have shifted from plagues and natural disasters to climate change and technological overreach, but the underlying themes remain the same. Mythological beasts continue to serve as vessels for exploring the unknown, confronting our deepest fears, and grappling with the complexities of human nature. This enduring relevance speaks to the universal power of myth. Whether it's a zombie horde representing the collapse of society or a dragon symbolizing the dangers of unchecked power, these stories remind us that the challenges we face are not so different from those of our ancestors. They offer a way to process our fears, to find meaning in chaos, and to connect with the timeless struggles that define the human experience. And perhaps that's the greatest strength of these myths, their ability to transcend time and culture, speaking to us in ways that feel both ancient and strikingly modern. As long as we continue to face uncertainty, to wrestle with our fears, and to seek meaning in a complex world, mythological beasts will endure, evolving alongside us to illuminate the path forward. Through their stories, we find not just entertainment, but a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world we inhabit. Mythology and religion have always been deeply intertwined, with mythological creatures often serving as bridges between the divine and the mortal world. These beasts weren't just fantastical inventions, they were powerful symbols, acting as messengers, enforcers, or even embodiments of the god's will. In ancient societies where the line between the sacred and the everyday was often blurred, mythological creatures became a way to make sense of the divine, to explain the unexplainable, and to reinforce the moral and spiritual codes that governed life. Take Ammit, for example, the fearsome creature from Egyptian mythology known as the devourer of the dead. With the body of a lion, the head of a crocodile, and the hindquarters of a hippopotamus, Ammit was no ordinary monster. She played a crucial role in the afterlife, sitting beside the scales of Mat during the judgment of the soul. If a person's heart, weighed against the feather of truth, was found to be heavy with sin, Ammit would devour it, condemning the soul to eternal oblivion. This wasn't just a tale to frighten the living, it was a vivid illustration of the Egyptian belief in moral accountability. Ammit wasn't just a monster, she was a divine enforcer, a reminder that actions in life had consequences beyond the grave. Similarly, in the Hebrew Bible, the Leviathan emerges as a colossal sea monster, often described as a symbol of chaos and divine power. Unlike Ammit, the Leviathan wasn't a judge or enforcer. It was a force of nature, a creature so immense and terrifying that only God could control it. In some texts, the Leviathan is portrayed as a symbol of evil, a beast to be defeated in the end times. In others, it's a testament to the majesty and mystery of creation, a reminder of the awe-inspiring power of the divine. The Leviathan's dual nature, both as a threat and a wonder, reflects the complex relationship between humanity and the divine, a tension between fear and reverence that lies at the heart of many religious traditions. These myths reveal more than just ancient beliefs about morality and the divine. They also highlight the role of storytelling in shaping religious thought. In a world without scientific explanations for natural phenomena or the mysteries of life and death, stories like these provided a framework for understanding the universe. They turned abstract concepts like justice, chaos, and divine will into tangible forms that people could visualize and relate to. By personifying these ideas as creatures like Ammit or the Leviathan, ancient cultures made them more accessible, more immediate, and more real. But these myths weren't just about fear or punishment. They also reflected humanity's spiritual aspirations. The idea of facing Ammit in the afterlife wasn't just a warning. It was an invitation to live a life of integrity and balance. The Leviathan, for all its terror, was also a reminder of the beauty and power of creation, inspiring awe and humility in those who contemplated its existence. These creatures, in their strange and otherworldly forms, became vehicles for exploring the deepest questions of existence. What does it mean to live a good life? What awaits us after death, and how do we make sense of the forces that shape our world? What's striking about these myths is how they reveal the close relationship between religion and storytelling. In ancient societies, myths weren't just entertainment. They were a form of spiritual education, a way to pass down values, beliefs, and lessons from one generation to the next. They were a way to connect with the divine, to grapple with the mysteries of existence, and to find meaning in a world that often felt chaotic and uncertain. Through these stories, we see not just the fears of ancient people, but also their hopes and aspirations. They remind us that, even in the face of the unknown, there is always a way to find meaning and connection. Whether it's the devouring jaws of Ammit or the swirling depths of the Leviathan, these creatures continue to captivate us because they speak to something fundamental within us, a need to understand the divine, to confront our fears, and to find our place in the universe. As we explore these myths, we're not just uncovering the beliefs of the past, we're also gaining insight into the timeless questions that continue to shape our lives. And in that exploration, we find not just fear, but also hope, a reminder that even in the face of the unknown, there is always a path to understanding and connection. In the grand tapestry of mythology, heroes and monsters are forever intertwined, locked in an eternal dance of struggle and triumph. These mythological beasts aren't just adversaries to be defeated, they're integral to the hero's journey, serving as both obstacles and allies, tests of character, and mirrors of the human condition. Take Hercules, for instance, whose legendary labors pit him against some of the most fearsome creatures imaginable. The Nemean lion, with its impenetrable hide, wasn't just a physical challenge, it symbolized the indomitable strength required to face life's hardships. The Hydra, with its regenerating heads, represented the relentless nature of chaos, a reminder that some challenges grow more complex the harder we fight them. Each beast Hercules encountered wasn't just a foe, it was a lesson in resilience, ingenuity, and the power of perseverance. Odysseus, too, faced his share of mythological adversaries during his long voyage home. The Cyclops Polyphemus, a towering figure of brute strength and unchecked rage, embodied the dangers of hubris and the importance of wit over raw power. By outsmarting the Cyclops, Odysseus showed that true heroism isn't just about strength, it's about using one's mind to navigate even the most perilous situations. And then there was Scylla and Charybdis, the twin terrors of the sea, forcing Odysseus to make an impossible choice between two equally devastating outcomes. This wasn't just a test of courage, it was a metaphor for the difficult decisions we all face, where there's no clear path to safety, only the hope of minimizing loss. These myths reveal something profound about the nature of heroism. The beasts heroes face aren't just random monsters, they're reflections of the fears and challenges that define the human experience. Whether it's the Hydra's multiplying heads or Scylla's razor-sharp teeth, these creatures embody the obstacles that seem insurmountable, the chaos that threatens to overwhelm us, and the choices that test our moral compass. By confronting these creatures, heroes like Hercules and Odysseus demonstrate the qualities we all aspire to: courage in the face of fear, wisdom in moments of uncertainty, and the perseverance to keep going even when the odds seem stacked against us. But these stories aren't just about individual heroism, they're also about the collective human spirit. In many myths, the hero's triumph over a beast isn't just a personal victory, it's a victory for their community, a restoration of order and balance. When Hercules slays the Nemean lion or when Beowulf defeats Grendel, they're not just proving their own strength, they're protecting their people from the chaos these creatures represent. These myths remind us that heroism isn't just about personal glory, it's about using one's strength and wisdom to serve a greater good. What's truly inspiring about these tales is how they encourage us to confront our own fears and challenges. The monsters in these myths aren't just fantastical creatures, they're metaphors for the obstacles we all face in our lives. The Hydra might represent a problem that seems to grow the more we try to solve it, while the Cyclops could symbolize the overwhelming force of ignorance or rage. By showing us how heroes navigate these trials, these stories offer a roadmap for our own journeys, reminding us that even the most daunting challenges can be overcome with courage, wisdom, and determination. Through these myths, we're invited to see ourselves as heroes in our own stories. The beasts we face might not have scales or fangs, but they're no less real. The fears that hold us back, the chaos that disrupts our lives, the choices that test our resolve. Just as Hercules and Odysseus found ways to triumph over their adversaries, we too can find the strength to confront our own monsters, whether they're external challenges or the fears that dwell within. These myths, born of ancient imaginations, continue to speak to us because they tap into something universal: the belief that no matter how dark the path or how fierce the foe, there is always a way forward. They remind us that heroism isn't about being fearless, it's about facing our fears, learning from our trials, and emerging stronger on the other side. And in that reminder, we find not just inspiration, but also the courage to take on our own heroic journeys. Mythological beasts are more than just stories, they are cultural mirrors, reflecting the unique fears, values, and experiences of the societies that created them. Take the Japanese kappa, for example. This mischievous water spirit, often depicted as a humanoid turtle with a bowl-like indentation on its head, is more than just a creature of folklore. The kappa embodies two deeply rooted anxieties in Japanese culture: the dangers of water and the importance of social etiquette. Living in rivers and lakes, kappas were said to drag unsuspecting swimmers to their doom, a reflection of the very real risks posed by Japan's waterways. But the kappa wasn't just a harbinger of danger, it was also a lesson in respect. According to legend, if you bowed to a kappa, it would bow in return, spilling the water from its head and losing its strength. This simple act of courtesy served as a reminder of the importance of humility and mutual respect, values that have long been central to Japanese society. On the other side of the world, the Wendigo of Native American mythology tells a very different but equally powerful story. This malevolent spirit, often described as a gaunt, skeletal figure with an insatiable hunger for human flesh, emerged from the harsh realities of life in the northern forest. For the Algonquian peoples, the Wendigo wasn't just a monster, it was a cautionary tale about the dangers of greed and the consequences of losing one's humanity. The Wendigo myth often centered around individuals who, driven by desperation or unchecked desire, resorted to cannibalism, transforming into monstrous beings as a result. This wasn't just a story about survival, it was a warning about the corrupting power of excess and the importance of community and self-control. The Wendigo's hunger wasn't just physical, it was a metaphor for the spiritual and moral decay that comes from putting one's own desires above the needs of others. What's striking about these myths is how they reveal the diversity of human experience. The Kappa and the Wendigo emerged from vastly different environments and cultural contexts, yet both reflect universal themes: the fear of the unknown, the importance of social harmony, and the consequences of losing one's way. The Kappa's connection to water highlights the dangers of nature and the need for mutual respect, while the Wendigo's insatiable hunger underscores the perils of unchecked desire and the fragility of human morality. These stories also serve as a reminder of how myths adapt to the needs of the societies that create them. In Japan, where water is both a source of life and a potential threat, the Kappa became a way to teach respect and caution. In the harsh winters of North America, where survival often depended on communal cooperation, the Wendigo warned against the dangers of greed and isolation. These creatures weren't just figments of imagination, they were tools for navigating the challenges of life, offering lessons that resonated deeply with the people who told their stories. But beyond their cultural specificity, these myths also connect us to something deeper: our shared humanity. While the Kappa and the Wendigo may seem worlds apart, they both speak to the universal struggle to balance our instincts with our values, to confront the unknown, and to find meaning in the face of fear. They remind us that, no matter where we come from, we all grapple with the same fundamental questions. How do we live in harmony with nature? How do we resist the temptations that threaten to consume us? And how do we maintain our humanity in the face of adversity? Through these stories, we see not just the fears of ancient cultures, but also their resilience and wisdom. They offer us a way to understand the past, to navigate the present, and to imagine the future. And perhaps, in their strange and otherworldly forms, they also remind us of the beauty and complexity of the human spirit, a spirit that continues to find meaning and connection through the power of storytelling. The power of mythological beasts isn't confined to the pages of ancient texts or whispered tales around a fire. It spills over into the vibrant world of art and literature, where these creatures take on new life through the hands of creators. From the earliest cave paintings to the intricate tapestries of the Renaissance, mythological beasts have been a constant presence, their forms and meanings shifting to reflect the fears, hopes, and values of the societies that depicted them. These artistic representations aren't just decorative, they're windows into the human soul, revealing how myths have shaped and been shaped by culture across the ages. Consider the dragons that coil and breathe fire across medieval tapestries. These weren't mere decorations for castles and cathedrals, they were potent symbols of chaos and power. In works like the Apocalypse tapestry from the 14th century, dragons are often shown as adversaries to saints and heroes, embodying the struggle between good and evil. Their serpentine forms, rendered in rich detail, served as reminders of the dangers that lurked beyond the safety of walls and faith. Yet, even in their menace, dragons also symbolized the divine order that could conquer chaos, reinforcing the spiritual and moral narratives of the time. These tapestries weren't just art, they were sermons in thread, weaving together myth, religion, and societal values. In classical literature, mythological creatures took on equally profound roles. The sirens of Homer's Odyssey, with their haunting songs, weren't just obstacles for Odysseus to overcome. They were embodiments of temptation and the peril of losing oneself to desire. Their allure and danger made them a powerful metaphor for the struggles of self-control and the seductive pull of the unknown. Later poets and artists inspired by Homer continued to explore the sirens' dual nature, portraying them as both beautiful and deadly, a reflection of humanity's complex relationship with desire and danger. These depictions weren't just about storytelling, they were about exploring the human condition through the lens of myth. Even in the Renaissance, a period often celebrated for its humanism and scientific curiosity, mythological beasts retained their symbolic power. Take, for instance, Hieronymus Bosch's The Garden of Earthly Delights, where fantastical creatures populate a surreal landscape of temptation and consequence. These hybrid beings, part animal, part human, and part something entirely other, embody the chaos of unchecked desire and the moral ambiguity of human existence. Bosch's work, much like the myths that inspired it, isn't just about fear, it's about confronting the complexities of human nature and the consequences of our choices. What's remarkable about these artistic depictions is how they reveal the adaptability of myth. A dragon in a medieval tapestry might symbolize chaos, but in a Chinese scroll painting, it could represent wisdom and harmony. A siren in Greek poetry might embody temptation, but in modern literature, she might become a symbol of liberation or danger. These shifts in meaning reflect the evolving fears and aspirations of the societies that create them, showing how myths remain relevant by adapting to new contexts. Through art and literature, mythological beasts have become more than just symbols, they've become a shared language, a way for cultures to explore and express their deepest anxieties and desires. They remind us that myths aren't static, they're alive, constantly reinterpreted and reimagined to meet the needs of each generation. And in their enduring presence, we see not just the power of storytelling, but also the timeless human need to make sense of the world through the creatures of our imagination. These artistic representations, whether carved into stone, painted on canvas, or woven into verse, continue to captivate us because they speak to something fundamental within us. They remind us that no matter how much the world changes, the questions we ask about ourselves and our place in the universe remain the same. And in their strange and beautiful forms, they offer us a way to explore those questions, to confront our fears, and to imagine new possibilities, just as they have for centuries. Mythological beasts didn't just live in stories, they walked among us, brought to life through rituals and ceremonies that transformed them from mere legends into active participants in daily life. These creatures became more than symbols, they were tools for connection between the human and the divine, the natural and the supernatural. In cultures around the world, people donned masks, crafted effigies, and performed dances to embody these beings, using them to protect, purify, and even bless their communities. These rituals weren't just performances, they were acts of faith, a way to channel the power of myth into tangible, real-world outcomes. Take the dragon dances of Chinese New Year, for example. These vibrant, swirling performances with their long, undulating dragon puppets are more than just celebrations, they're rituals steeped in meaning. The dragon, a symbol of strength, wisdom, and prosperity, is believed to bring good fortune and ward off evil spirits. As the dragon weaves through the streets, accompanied by the rhythmic beat of drums and cymbals, it's said to cleanse the community of bad luck and usher in a year of abundance. This practice, rooted in ancient tradition, shows how mythological creatures can serve as bridges between the spiritual and the everyday, transforming fear into hope and chaos into order. In ancient Crete, the Minotaur played a similarly central role in rituals, though its symbolism was far darker. The labyrinth where the Minotaur was said to dwell wasn't just a setting for myth, it was a sacred space, possibly used in ceremonies that echoed the story of Theseus and the beast. Some scholars suggest that the labyrinth itself may have been a site for rituals of purification or initiation, with the Minotaur representing the primal fears and challenges that individuals had to overcome. By confronting the Minotaur in these ceremonies, participants weren't just reenacting a myth, they were facing their own inner demons, emerging stronger and more connected to their community. Masks and costumes also played a crucial role in bringing mythological beasts to life. In many indigenous cultures, masks depicting animals or hybrid creatures were used in rituals to honor spirits, seek protection, or invoke fertility. These masks weren't just decorative, they were transformative, allowing the wearer to embody the power and essence of the creature they represented. For example, among the Native American tribes of the Pacific Northwest, masks of thunderbirds or killer whales were worn during ceremonies to call upon the strength and wisdom of these beings. The act of wearing the mask wasn't just symbolic, it was a way to channel the creature's energy, to become one with the myth and its power. Even in modern times, the influence of mythological beasts in rituals persists. In Japan, the Namahage festival sees villagers dress as demon-like creatures to scare children into good behavior, a practice rooted in the belief that these beings can drive away evil spirits and purify the home. Similarly, in parts of Europe, effigies of dragons are paraded through towns during festivals, only to be slain in a symbolic act of triumph over chaos. These traditions, though playful, carry deep cultural significance, reminding us that myths are not just stories of the past. They're living traditions that continue to shape our lives. What's fascinating is how these rituals reveal the practical applications of myth. By embodying these creatures, ancient societies found a way to confront their fears, celebrate their values, and connect with the divine. The dragon dance, the Minotaur's labyrinth, the Thunderbird mask, each of these practices served a purpose, whether it was to protect, purify, or inspire. They remind us that myths aren't just abstract tales, they're tools for navigating the complexities of life, offering guidance, comfort, and a sense of belonging. Through these rituals, we see how mythological beasts became more than just figments of imagination. They became partners in the human journey, helping us confront the unknown, celebrate the sacred, and find meaning in the everyday. And in their enduring presence, we find a testament to the power of storytelling, not just to entertain, but to transform and connect us across time and culture. Long before the rise of modern science, ancient cultures looked to the skies, the seas, and the earth itself for answers to the mysteries of the natural world. But without the tools to understand phenomena like earthquakes, storms, or eclipses, they turned to something equally powerful, their imagination. Mythological beasts became the ultimate storytellers, personifying the forces of nature in ways that made the unexplainable feel tangible. These creatures weren't just symbols, they were explanations, offering a way to make sense of a world that often seemed chaotic and unpredictable. Take the Norse Midgard serpent, Jormungandr, for example. This colossal sea serpent, so massive it encircled the entire world, wasn't just a fearsome monster, it was a living explanation for the tremors and upheavals of the earth. According to Norse mythology, when Jormungandr stirred in the depths of the ocean, it caused earthquakes and tidal waves, shaking the very foundations of Midgard, the realm of humans. This wasn't just a fantastical tale, it was a way for Norse communities to understand the terrifying power of natural disasters. By attributing these events to the movements of a great serpent, they transformed fear into narrative, offering a sense of control over the uncontrollable. Similarly, in Aztec mythology, Tlalochtecutli, the earth monster, played a central role in explaining the natural world. Depicted as a massive, fanged creature with a body made of land and water, Tlalochtecutli was believed to be the source of earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. The Aztecs told stories of how the gods had to tear Tlalochtecutli apart to create the earth, and how the monster's restless movements still cause the ground to shake. This myth wasn't just about fear, it was about reverence. By honoring Tlachtocutli through rituals and offerings, the Aztecs sought to appease the earth and maintain balance, showing how mythology could serve as both an explanation and a form of environmental stewardship. These stories reveal a universal truth about human nature, our deep-seated need to understand and control the world around us. When faced with the raw power of nature, ancient cultures didn't just see chaos, they saw patterns, stories, and meaning. A sudden earthquake became the stirring of a serpent, a violent storm, the wrath of a god. These myths allowed people to confront their fears by giving them form and purpose, turning the unknown into something that could be named, understood, and even negotiated with. But what's truly fascinating is how these myths reflect the early intersection of science and imagination. While today we might study seismic waves or atmospheric pressure to explain natural phenomena, ancient societies used stories to achieve the same goal. The Midgard serpent and Tlachtocutli weren't just creatures of folklore, they were early attempts at scientific inquiry, ways of observing, interpreting, and predicting the natural world. In this sense, mythology wasn't just a precursor to science, it was a parallel path, one that sought to answer the same questions through a different lens. These stories also highlight the resilience and creativity of human beings. Faced with the overwhelming forces of nature, ancient cultures didn't succumb to fear, they created. They wove tales of serpents and monsters, gods and giants, transforming their anxieties into art and meaning. Through these myths, they found a way to engage with the world, to explore its mysteries, and to pass down their knowledge to future generations. As we look back on these stories, we're reminded of the enduring power of myth to illuminate the human experience. They show us that, even in the face of the unknown, there is always a way to find understanding and connection. Whether through the movements of a serpent or the rumblings of an earth monster, these myths continue to speak to us, not just as relics of the past, but as reflections of our timeless quest to make sense of the world and our place within it. Mythological beasts haven't faded into the past, they've simply evolved, finding new homes in the urban legends and cryptid sightings of today. From the shadowy forests of the Pacific Northwest to the murky waters of Loch Ness, these modern myths continue to captivate our imaginations, proving that the allure of the unknown is as powerful as ever. But what do creatures like Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster really tell us? Far from being mere curiosities, they reflect the fears and fascinations of contemporary life, serving as mirrors to our modern anxieties and our enduring need to make sense of the world around us. Take Bigfoot, for example. This towering ape-like creature, said to roam the remote wilderness of North America, isn't just a figure of folklore. It's a symbol of the untamed wild, a reminder of how little we truly know about the vast, uncharted landscapes that still exist on our planet. In an age where technology has made much of the world feel smaller and more accessible, Bigfoot represents the last vestiges of mystery, the parts of nature that resist exploration and control. For many, the idea of encountering Bigfoot taps into a primal fear of the unknown, a fear that has haunted humanity since the earliest days of storytelling. Yet, it also sparks a sense of wonder, a longing to believe that there are still secrets waiting to be uncovered. Similarly, the Loch Ness Monster, or Nessie, embodies our fascination with the depths of the ocean and the mysteries that lie beneath its surface. For centuries, reports of a long-necked serpentine creature lurking in the dark waters of Loch Ness have captured the public's imagination. But Nessie isn't just a tale of a monster, it's a reflection of our curiosity about the unseen world beneath the waves. In a time when we've mapped the ocean floor and explored the farthest reaches of space, Nessie reminds us that there are still parts of our own planet that remain shrouded in mystery. The creature's elusive nature, with its rare and fleeting sightings, mirrors our own struggle to grasp the unknown, to find answers in the face of uncertainty. What's striking about these modern myths is how they echo the themes of their ancient counterparts. Like the dragons and sea serpents of old, Bigfoot and Nessie embody the tension between fear and fascination, between the desire to explore and the fear of what we might discover. They remind us that no matter how much we learn or how far we progress, there will always be aspects of the world that defy explanation. And in that defiance, we find a connection to the storytellers of the past who used myths to grapple with the same questions we face today. These stories also reveal something profound about the human condition, our need to believe in something greater than ourselves. In a world that often feels dominated by science and reason, cryptids like Bigfoot and Nessie offer a glimpse of the magical, the mysterious, and the unexplained. They invite us to imagine, to wonder, and to dream, tapping into a sense of awe that has been part of human culture for millennia. Whether or not these creatures exist, their stories endure because they speak to something deep within us, a yearning for mystery, a craving for the extraordinary in an increasingly ordinary world. But beyond their role as symbols of the unknown, these modern myths also serve as a bridge between the past and the present. They connect us to the ancient traditions of storytelling, reminding us that the act of creating myths is as old as humanity itself. Just as our ancestors used tales of dragons and giants to make sense of their world, we use stories of Bigfoot and Nessie to explore our own fears and desires. In this way, these creatures aren't just relics of the past, they're living legends, evolving with each generation to reflect the hopes, fears, and curiosities of the time. Through these stories, we see the enduring power of myth to shape our understanding of the world. They remind us that no matter how much the world changes, the questions we ask about ourselves and our place in the universe remain the same. And in their strange and elusive forms, they offer us a way to explore those questions, to confront our fears, and to find meaning in the mysteries that surround us. Whether in the depths of a Scottish loch or the heart of an American forest, these modern myths continue to inspire, to challenge, and to connect us to the timeless power of storytelling. Even in an age dominated by science and technology, mythological beasts continue to hold a powerful grip on our imaginations. Why do these ancient creatures, born of fire and shadow, still resonate with us so deeply? The answer lies in their ability to tap into universal human experiences, our fears, our desires, and our need to make sense of a complex world. These beings, with their otherworldly forms and timeless stories, offer us a way to explore the unknown, to confront our deepest anxieties, and to grapple with questions that science alone cannot answer. Consider the fear of the unknown, a theme that runs like a thread through countless myths. From the Hydra's multiplying heads to the Kraken's fathomless depths, these creatures embody the chaos and mystery that lie just beyond the edges of our understanding. In a world where so much has been explained, they remind us that there are still forces that elude our grasp. Whether it's the vastness of the cosmos, the mysteries of the human mind, or the unpredictability of life itself. By giving these fears a shape and a name, myths allow us to confront them in a way that feels safe, even empowering. But it's not just fear that drives our fascination with these creatures, it's also desire. The vampire, with its eternal life and seductive allure, represents our longing for immortality and the dangers of unchecked ambition. The dragon, guarding its hoard of treasure, reflects our complex relationship with power and wealth. These beings are more than just symbols, they are mirrors, reflecting our deepest aspirations and the moral dilemmas that come with them. Through their stories, we explore the tension between what we want and what we know is right, between our dreams and our limitations. What's remarkable is how these myths provide a space for exploration and reflection. In a world where we often feel pressured to have all the answers, myths remind us that it's okay to not know, to wonder, to imagine. They invite us to step into a world where the rules are different, where the impossible becomes possible, and where we can confront our fears and desires without judgment or consequence. This imaginative freedom is not just comforting, it's transformative, helping us to see ourselves and our world in new and profound ways. And perhaps that's the true power of mythological beasts, their ability to evolve with us. From the fire-breathing dragons of medieval Europe to the enigmatic cryptids of modern folklore, these creatures adapt to reflect the changing fears and aspirations of each generation. They remind us that no matter how much the world changes, the human experience remains fundamentally the same. We are still driven by the same questions, the same fears, the same desires. And in these stories, we find a way to explore those questions, to confront those fears, and to celebrate those desires. As we bring this journey to a close, it's clear that mythological beasts are more than just relics of the past. They are living, breathing parts of our collective consciousness. They challenge us to confront the unknown, to embrace the mysteries of life, and to find meaning in the stories we tell. Whether they terrify us, inspire us, or simply make us wonder, these creatures continue to captivate us because they speak to something deep within us, a need to understand, to connect, and to imagine. In the end, the enduring appeal of mythological beasts lies not in their fangs or scales, but in their ability to reflect the complexity of the human experience. They remind us that no matter how much we learn or how far we progress, there will always be mysteries to explore, fears to confront, and stories to tell. And in that exploration, we find not just understanding, but also a deeper connection to ourselves, to each other, and to the world we inhabit. From the fire-breathing dragons of medieval Europe to the enigmatic cryptids of modern folklore, mythological beasts have always been more than just creatures of fantasy. They are mirrors reflecting the fears, superstitions, and values of the civilizations that created them. Through these stories, ancient cultures grappled with the unknown, making sense of the chaos and uncertainty that surrounded them. The Hydra's regenerating heads, the Leviathan's unfathomable depths, and the Minotaur's labyrinthine prison weren't just tales of monsters. They were profound explorations of human struggle, resilience, and the quest for meaning. These myths offered a way to externalize fears, confront moral dilemmas, and pass down lessons that shaped the moral and cultural fabric of societies for generations. What's truly remarkable is how these stories continue to resonate with us today. The fears that drove ancient storytellers to create these creatures, fear of the unknown, of losing control, of forces beyond our understanding, are the same fears that shape our modern world. Whether it's the allure of immortality in vampire lore or the cautionary tales of hubris in the Minotaur's labyrinth, these myths tap into timeless themes that transcend culture and time. They remind us that no matter how much the world changes, the human experience remains rooted in the same fundamental questions. Who are we? What do we fear? And what do we aspire to become? The enduring power of these stories lies in their ability to adapt and evolve. Just as the dragon transformed from a symbol of chaos in Europe to a harbinger of wisdom and prosperity in the East, modern myths like Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster reflect our own anxieties about the unexplored and the unexplained. These creatures, whether ancient or contemporary, serve as a bridge between the past and the present, connecting us to the storytellers who came before us and reminding us of the universal power of imagination. But these myths are more than just windows into the past. They are also tools for understanding ourselves. By exploring the fears and desires that these creatures represent, we gain insight into our own lives. The werewolf, with its struggle between human and beast, mirrors our own battles with self-control and identity. The vampire, with its seductive immortality, challenges us to consider the price of our ambitions. These stories invite us to confront our own fears, to question our values, and to find meaning in the challenges we face. As we reflect on the myths of the past, it's worth asking, what do the stories we tell today reveal about our own fears and aspirations? In a world shaped by technology and rapid change, what new creatures are we conjuring to make sense of the unknown? Are the cryptids and urban legends of today the dragons and sea serpents of tomorrow? By examining the myths we create, we can gain a deeper understanding of our own culture, our own fears, and our own hopes for the future. So, what do you think? Do modern myths like Bigfoot or the Mothman reflect our anxieties about the environment, technology, or societal change? Or are they simply a continuation of humanity's timeless need to tell stories? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective. And if you've enjoyed this journey into the world of mythological beasts, don't forget to subscribe for more explorations into the fascinating realm of mythology. Together, let's keep uncovering the stories that shape who we are and who we might become.